Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. I am going to be sharing 3 recipes that all ended up being chicken casserole type recipes with you. I was kind of on the hunt for different ways to use shredded chicken, whether it be a rotisserie chicken or chicken that you make on your own that you have left over, and I wanted to find different ways to use it up and new recipes to do so. So I found these 3 recipes online. I will have them all linked in the description box for you below, but let's go ahead and get into today's recipes. So for my shredded chicken, I'm just going to cook up some chicken breast in a crock pot. I'm just placing this into a crock pot, and then I'm going to pour in a little bit of chicken broth and season it with salt and pepper. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing and you're going to utilize the shredded chicken breast throughout multiple recipes, I recommend just seasoning it pretty plainly, just with the salt and pepper and the chicken broth. That way you can use it in different dishes and you don't have competing flavors. Now, if you want to, you can obviously, like I said before, use a rotisserie chicken, or if you have leftover cooked chicken a different way, whatever your favorite method is, you can do that. But this was a perfect, easy meal prep. And then for the rest of the week, I was able to throw together these dinners very quickly. The first recipe I'm going to make is this barbecue chicken cornbread, and I'm just going to start out by preparing the cornbread part. And this is kind of more like a corn casserole. And so in my large bowl here, I'm just going to start out by adding in some sour cream, 1 can of creamed corn, and then I also did 1 can of regular corn that I rinsed and drained. And then to that, I'm going to add in 2 large eggs, and then we're going to do 1 box of cornbread mix. I just used the Jiffy cornbread mix, and then stir everything well together to combine. So as I said, this is kind of more like a corn casserole because you have the creamy corn and then also like the corn kernels in it. If you prefer a traditional like cornbread, you could absolutely do that and make the same recipe. I think that would also be delicious, but I love a good corn casserole, so I absolutely love this recipe. Once you have that well mixed, I just took a 13x9 and I went ahead and sprayed it with some nonstick cooking spray. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour that mixture into the dish. And this is going to bake in a 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. And then we will go ahead and move on with the next steps once that is done cooking. Now, while I did have that in the oven, I went ahead and prepared my barbecue chicken. So I just took that chicken breast that I had cooked in the crock pot, I shredded it up, and then I added some barbecue sauce to it and just tossed it well to combine. And then the other thing that I need is some shredded cheese. I've said it before on my channel, I love to grate my own cheese. It just melts better. It ends up being way more cost effective in the end, and it tastes better too. So if you've never tried it, shredding it yourself, I definitely recommend it, but I needed some cheddar cheese, so I went ahead and prepped that as well. Once the corn casserole came out of the oven, I'm just going to top it with the barbecue chicken and then go ahead and sprinkle it with that cheddar cheese. And then this is going to go back into the oven at 350 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes, or until the cheese is melted onto the cornbread, and the cornbread is finished cooking. And then once this came out of the oven, I decided to top it with a little bit more barbecue sauce. I just liked it for the presentation and also the taste. But this was absolutely amazing. Both my husband and I enjoyed it, so I highly recommend this recipe. The second recipe in today's video is for this chicken shepherd's pie, and if this is not the perfect dish to segue into the fall months, I don't know what is, because it is so comforting and so delicious. So I just started out by melting down a couple tablespoons of butter, and then to that I went ahead and added half of a chopped onion. Now the recipe, which again I will have linked in the description box below, does call for fresh carrots that you would cook with the onions if you were doing that, but I'm going to show you what I did with the carrots in a little bit, so I did not add them at this time. It also does call for celery, which I don't like, so I went ahead and left that out. So once my onions got soft, I went ahead and added a few cloves of chopped garlic, and I let that cook for a minute just until it became fragrant. And then I went ahead and added in a bag of peas and carrots combined. So instead of having them separately, I just utilized this easy freezer ingredient of having the two together. I did cook them in the microwave according to the package directions, so they were thawed. If you wanted to do it from frozen, you absolutely could in the beginning, but I wanted to do it this way because I was afraid the peas would get mushy. So once you have those added in, you're just going to go in with a couple tablespoons of flour, and then I just went ahead and gently mix that into the vegetables so that they coated everything really well. And then you want to cook it for a couple of minutes so that way the raw taste of the flour can cook out, and then we will move on with our liquid ingredients. And for the liquid ingredients, the recipe calls for half and half. I just went ahead and used heavy cream, and then it also calls for chicken broth, so I use that, but I do the better than bouillon. So you just want to give that a good stir once you add the liquid in and kind of break everything up a little bit. And then you want to let this cook until it starts to thicken, and this will take just about, I'd say, 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5. It's really quick. And since we had that chicken prepped earlier in the week, this dinner came together honestly within 15 minutes. So while that's thickening, I went ahead and added some seasonings. I did some dried thyme and then some salt and pepper. And then you just want to taste it at this point to see if it needs anything else. And then we will move on to our next step. Please let me know in the comments down below, have you ever tried a chicken shepherd's pie? I have not. I've had the traditional shepherd's pie with the ground beef, and I also have a couple times made a vegan lentil shepherd's pie that is absolutely amazing. If you're interested in that recipe, let me know as well. I'd be happy to make it on my channel. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean that it's not delicious. It is so good. But I was really excited to try this with the chicken because I hadn't tried it before, so it kind of gave me like a chicken pot pie kind of vibe, and it was just a good alternative to the ground beef. Now, once the sauce has thickened, as you can see it has here, you're just going to go ahead and add in your shredded chicken and then give that a good toss. And then I'm going to go ahead and transfer this to an 8x8-inch square pan. The recipe calls for a 9x7, which I don't have, so I use an 8x8, and it did work out really well. I thought it was going to overflow possibly in the oven, so I did put a pan underneath it, but it actually didn't. It worked out perfectly, but it is just a little bit fuller. So once I get that in there, we're going to add the mashed potatoes on top. And for that, I just used the family size of the refrigerated Bob Evans mashed potatoes. They have a really good flavor. They're pretty good price point, and it's just so easy to do. And since they were refrigerated, I just cooked them in the microwave for the first 4 minutes that the package says to, and then stirred it and then added it to the top. I didn't cook it the full amount of time. It was going in the oven, so I knew that it didn't need to. So then once I have that on there and spread out as evenly as I can, I recommend trying to do dollops like I am. It makes it easier when you're trying to spread it since you have that liquid underneath. I'm just going to top it with the shredded cheddar cheese that we shredded earlier. And then this is going to go in the oven for 30 minutes at 375. And then when it comes out, I do recommend letting it cool for a few minutes. That way everything can kind of set up, and it was absolutely amazing. The final recipe in today's video is for this buffalo chicken baked pasta, and oh my goodness, this one was amazing as well. So you're just going to start out by melting down a couple tablespoons of butter, and then to that you're going to add a couple tablespoons of flour. And same thing as the last recipe, you just want to let it cook for like 1 to 2 minutes to let that raw flour taste cook out. I walked away from mine a little bit too long, but it still turned out perfectly. It just got a little bit darker in color. And then to that, you're going to add milk and then give that a good whisk and let it start to thicken. Now, I'm not letting it thicken all the way like I would if I was making a gravy, because next is adding the cream cheese. The second I added that whole block of cream cheese in there, which it's not a whole block, it's 6 ounces, so almost a whole block, I knew that I was going to regret not doing it in pieces or letting it soften more. It definitely did melt down. It just took a little extra time. So keep that in mind when you do it. You're going to make it a lot easier on yourself if you either let it soften beforehand or cut it into smaller pieces. And you can see how thick that gets with the cream cheese. So now I'm going to go in with 1 tablespoon of ranch seasoning and then a 1/4 cup of some hot sauce. I use the Sweet Baby Ray's buffalo sauce. And then you just want to whisk all of that well together to combine. And then next up, all we're going to do is add in our shredded chicken and the pasta. So I'm going with that shredded chicken. Again, this was from the Crockpot that I cooked in the beginning of the video. And then the pasta I just cooked according to the package directions. In hindsight, I would cook it about like 1 to 2 minutes less, just so that way it doesn't overcook when it's in the oven, because it was a little bit past al dente, and that's how I like it. So then what you're going to do is put it into a 13x9 and top it with some shredded mozzarella cheese. I thought that I was filming this part, but I was not. So you just want to do that. And then it's going to go into a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. When it comes out of the oven, you can serve it as is. I chose to top mine with some blue cheese, which was absolutely amazing. And my husband topped his with some additional buffalo sauce. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing these recipes. I really enjoyed creating them for you and seeing how you can use one ingredient that you prep in the beginning of the week for 3 different dinners, which made for really great, easy weeknight meals. If you haven't done so already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and join my YouTube family, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.